Adding detail to your fracture geometry is essential to create a very nice look in your final render. And actually, creating interior detail for your Voronoi pieces is pretty straightforward. Let's recreate our Voronoi fracture just as a practice. So remember, once you have your geometry ready, we can create a scatter. So let's create an ISO offset volume just to have points inside the wall. Let's increase the resolution and add a scatter node. This time I will use a few pieces. Let's try with 6. And then let's lay down a Voronoi fracture connected to the main tree and my scattered point into the second input. And let's add an exploded view just to see the pieces more easily. So this is fine for now. Actually, I like that we have this very big interior pieces so we can see the interior detail. So let's now add an RBD interior detail node. Let's connect it to our Voronoi fracture. And just in case we later want to create some rigid body dynamics, let's also connect the constraint geometry to the second input. And let's click on our RBD interior detail. Also, I will connect my exploded view to this last node. So notice how right off the bat we have a few more subdivisions here inside our Voronoi cells. I don't really like the default values in this case. Probably we don't have enough detail. So first of all, let me decrease the detail size. Let's try with 0.075. So notice here we have more subdivisions. And for this size of pieces, I think we can even go lower. Let's try with 0.4. Actually, I have too much zeros. Yeah, 0.4. Okay, this looks nice. So here we have the noise amplitude. So let's increase it slightly until we can start seeing this concave shapes. It now looks much more detailed, but I think we can still decrease the size of the noise pattern. So here we have the frequency of the noise. Of course, if we increase the frequency, we'll have smaller patterns, which in this case is what I'm looking for. Again, we have an offset. Just in case we don't like the patterns, we can change the pattern with the offset. So here I like these very nice ridges that are being created. And one other important property is the interior cusp angle. If we increase the cusp angle, we will have smoothed parts. If we decrease this parameter, we'll have more angled shading, just as we can see here. So let's try with 25. And this is looking nice. And there's not much more to the interior detail node. Just a few more parameters that will help you visualize how the noise is being generated. If you click here on the visualize noise scale, you will notice a gradient that goes from blue on the outer faces to red in the interior faces. And this is showing us the strength of the noise being applied. So notice how the noise is not being applied on the outer faces, just not to disturb the geometry or to change its outer shape. All the noise is being concentrated here on the center of the interior pieces. And usually the depth volume resolution you won't need to change. The default of 50 is fine. But in case you want to push the noise outward, you can change the depth noise bias. You can increase it if you want a little bit more noise towards the exterior faces, or decrease this value if you want to push the noise pattern more towards the center. So here, just a word of caution: try not to go very high with this value or even with the noise amplitude, because if you go very high with these values, you may start getting some artifacts, especially here near the borders or near the edges. And this could also cause some trouble when you're creating rigid body dynamics. So just be careful not to go very high with these values. We can still add a few more details in render time with bump maps or displacement maps.